September 28th, 2021. I'm going to Jackson. A year ago yesterday, I continued my peaceful journey into the evening light and ended up in an old hotel in Jackson, Mississippi. It seemed appropriate to be in Mississippi as John Lewis, the African-American civil rights leader, had just passed. The news of his passing was all over CNN. Race relations are still fraught in our country, but I realize that although I don't know him, I like this man. I put on my black suit and my tie and my smiling skull ring the next day because I'm in one of Johnny Cash's houses and will be starting up the Delta Blues Trail today to find the birthplace and grave of Robert Johnson. Due respect. I drive to Hazelhurst, Mississippi. Going through the town, I end up driving past a neighborhood and into the local cemetery. That's a good start, but I'm lost. I drive back into town, fill the car with gas, and experience a ghost in the intersection. I can feel the history. Johnson's house is tricky to locate. It's supposed to be near the Chamber of Commerce, according to internet sources. But I head south of town to the other side of the tracks. I end up at the train depot and find a rail spike right at the stop where Johnson may have boarded trains. His house is not on poor side, so I head back to the better side of town. It isn't much. But I locate the house, if you can call it that, the lady at the desk in the Chamber of Commerce says. She's not going to be wrong. Robert Johnson's birth home is a shotgun shack and is literally held together by gauze. Maybe someday they'll restore it, I'm told. It's a ghostly place. The front steps are falling off and the entrance door is hanging precariously. The view out of the house from a window that could have been young Robert's view from his bedroom looks like that of a mummy's perspective. His home was moved behind the Chamber of Commerce for preservation purposes. I can't help but notice it's not being preserved. The strong contrast is another thing I notice between the home of Robert Johnson and Graceland, which I saw yesterday. This is the two Americas that we hear of. I leave Hazelhurst heading north up the Delta Blues Trail on Highway 61. In Durant, Mississippi, I find a cave of trees and am compelled to back up and enter the chasm. In the abyss, I find an exit, a patch of grass, and a little white church that has probably been out of use since at least the early 1900s. It's surrounded by smiling gray tombstone teeth and nestled close to an ancient giant oak tree. Again, history looms. A plaque back on the highway notifies me that this is the Franklin Church. In Greenwood, Mississippi, I finally get the barbecue I've been searching for. It's served with slaw, but I still find myself partial to honey bears in Phoenix. Greenwood also boasts of Bobby Gentry, and I find myself playing Ode to Billy Joe probably 60 or 70 times as I stop at Robert Johnson's burial plot at the Little Zion Church close to Choctaw Ridge. I cover House of the Rising Sun sitting on Robert Johnson's grave. I strum with a guitar pick that somebody else left on the headstone. The evening comes on, and I drive up the highway to the crossroads in Clarksdale, stopping along the way at a hotel that Elvis had stayed in. Then it's another long drive into the night, heading west towards Tulsa. I stay in Little Rock that night. It's a strange city, and for some reason, I can't stop thinking of presidents. I guess that's what comes from growing up in the 90s.